Six players is an awkward number in board gaming. And a lot of that has to do with there aren't a lot of games out there that support six players that aren't party games. So in this list, you're getting the top 10 six-player games and then quite a few honorable mentions, because as I was going through my collection and thinking about things, I thought, oh, that also plays at six, that also plays at six, but I've narrowed it down to the top 10 that are not party games, that are not roll and writes, because usually you can play from 1 to 99 people. No, roll and writes are out. That aren't social deductions, and that you don't need expansions to play with six players. It comes with six players right in the box. These are the games that you should play if you have six people. These are the games that I will pull out if I have six people at a game night. Oh, I just thought of another honorable mention. Yeah, okay, that can be an honorable mention. These aren't your King of Tokyo. There's the honorable mention. We'll wait for the rest till we get to the end, because I find King of Tokyo might fall into that sort of party game realm, but these are games that actually have some meaty decision spaces and that aren't excruciating at six players. I tried to veer more on the side of complexity, because I always find when we have that larger group, my groups at least in those six end up playing the social deduction or the party games or whatever, and it's tough to play something that's really meaty and delicious and satisfies that gamer itch, and that's what this top 10 list is about. So let's get into it right now. Starting off with number 10, we have Age of Wonders Planetfall, and I really want to caveat this. This makes the list. This does make the list for six players. I am keeping this in my collection because I would play this at six players and no other player count. This one, the player count is for sure a lie. It says 2 to 6 players. No. All the other player counts, not good. This one, though, so I want to give you that caveat too. I have a full review on it if you want the review, but this one is legitimately really good at six, and I did not expect it after my very, very aggressively fine play that when I started at 2 players. Completely the opposite side of the spectrum. And I've tried it out at different player counts since, and I only want to play this at 6, but at 6, this is quite good. It's by Arcane Wonders, so you know it's going to be affordable. They create really nice, great, affordable games. And this is a drafting game. This kind of replaces Seven Wonders on the list. You won't find Seven Wonders on this list because I think if I had to play between Age of Wonders or Seven Wonders at 6 players, I'd play Age of Wonders because there's more ways to directly interact with everybody around the table. Seven Wonders, you're only interacting with 2 people around you. Another point of this list is that you are interacting with people. That it being at 6 players either increases or amplifies the play, which this one absolutely does, or there's a reason to play it at 6 versus playing it at another player count. You can play these at other player counts, but for this one specifically, you are not allowed. I refuse. I reject that idea for you. Here's a picture of the board. You're going to go through 7 rounds of these. You have 7 planets. You have some end game goals that will happen, and the cards are going to be laid out in these rows. And on your turn, each planet, you're going to get to take 2 cards. You take your little token, you put it on the planet, you are reserving that planet. The order is determined by this play order over here, and you get your first choice or last choice at picking up one of these. And then you resolve the cards from the top to bottom, left to right, and whoever is here, so this green person is going to get to pick first next time. Now that's important because they have varying levels of abilities or difficulties, and they are always better when you reach into this 3rd row. You can see in the 3rd row, in the 1st row, this one costs you 7 energy, and then in the 2nd and the 3rd row, it costs you 6 energy. So you get a little bit of a benefit for going last in the turn order. The reason why this one works so well at 6 players is because there are exactly 12 cards. That means your drafting decisions are so important. You can't rely on there being optimal or leftover things. You might choose to go first in the player order and take a less beneficial card because you're hoping to get something better next time. There's a really nice flow that works really well. There are also these 3 spots that you can go to if the cards really don't fit your strategy. They basically will give you points and some resources. You play that for 7 rounds, that's the game. There's also 7 different planets where you'll have different end game goals. So one of them is like, have the most energy, you get 5 points or whatever. And everybody also has their own individual player power where these are double-sided and it gives you a little asymmetric tweak. That's fun. His name is Kenny Proton. Well, I think it's Claudius Proton, but you know what? I'll go with you. It's Kenny Proton. That's our number 10. Number 9 is Tiny Towns from AEG. Tiny Towns, which plays up to 6 players, and I think it works quite well at 6. It's a bit lower on the list because I think it works a bit better at a lower player count. You see the community says it's best for 3. Community says 1 to 5. best at 3, and don't play it at 6 because your board can get really cluttered. But if you don't know what Tiny Towns is, you're going to have a board looking like this. You can see the top down, where every turn somebody's going to announce a color, and everybody must take that color cube and put it somewhere on their board. And then if you form the formation of these cards, you can take those cubes off the board and replace them with the specific building. So for this, for example, see this little gray circle? That's a well right here, or a millstone. And in order to do that, you had to have gotten a brown and a gray. So you put a brown and a gray down, and then you remove both of those and put the millstone down somewhere. They'll all score you different points. I like this game because your board gets cramped so quickly. It feels a little roll and write-esque, but it's not. You can have people making essentially the same decisions, but at some point your decision space is going to change and someone's going to get a little bit of an edge or blocked up. There's some cards that just feel obvious as the highest point getters to go for, and everybody kind of goes for those. But everyone also has their own unique pink building that they can build, which can give them a varying power or a varying number of points or abilities. I'm not as huge on Tiny Towns as any of the games in this list. Honestly, it's probably my least favorite, but I certainly don't love it that amount. Let's be clear. But I do like it, and I will be happy to play it. And it's one of my girlfriend's favorites as well. She really enjoys it, and I think it works well as a 6-player game in that sort of 30 to 45 minute space, 45 to 60 minutes, I guess. I like that the turns are simultaneous. Simultaneous play is a really good boon when it comes to 6 players. And I think the flow of the game works pretty well. And when you're eliminated, generally you don't have to wait too long. Because if your board gets filled up, everybody else keeps going until their boards are full as well. But like the game's so short that, again, player elimination doesn't matter too much. That's our number 9, Tiny Towns. Number 8 is a game called Footprints. It came out 2023. I have a review of this upcoming. Well, I haven't filmed it yet because I still want to play it at a few other player counts, but I have played it at 6, and I have played it at the higher player counts, and it works better, I think, at the higher player counts. I just need to play it at lower player counts to confirm that. This one was quite good. It was a nice surprise for me. In Footprints, you're going to have your own asymmetric clan. They're asymmetric in like small ways. Small ways, their deck construction is a bit different, and then everybody has their own special leader card that they can play once per game. On your turn, you're going to play a card, and you're going to either choose its top or its bottom ability. Here we go. You're going to play its top or bottom ability. Its bottom ability is usually used to kind of ramp up your engine, and then its top ability is your ability to move. So here you get to move the number of ice spaces that you have moved up to on your track, plus you get to move onto a mountain space. So if this were your character, for example, you would get to run over the ice spaces. Let's say your ice travel distance was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In a perfect world, you'd gotten this little disc over here in the corner. Boom, that one right there. You've gotten it all the way up to the 8 section. You could then run along the path 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then land on this gray section. May not be the most strategic thing because of how the other movements are determined, but you could do that as a move. So otherwise, you just get to move one space and you get to move your movement capability up a little bit. But there's a couple twists to this. One, everybody has a different composition of what they're effective at moving on. So some of you might be able to skirt through ice really quickly, and somebody else only has 2 cards that let you move on ice. So do you take the time to level up the ice track, or do you focus your ability on other things? But if you spend the time on ice, getting resources on ice, then you can build additional buildings, which can give you resources. Or do you speed right for the end, because the person who makes it to the end first gets a whole whack load of points? There's a lot of things that happen. And additionally, when you're raising your tracks, if you can jump over people in a straight line with that one space movement, right, to go back to that card breakdown down here, you move in one straight line, one space. If there are people in front of you, you get to jump over all of them. So with 6 players, you have more chances of there being this perfect storm, more chances of people covering the things that you want. Every resource that you pass through, you get. However, if this black meeple were on a resource and you walked through them, you wouldn't get that resource. So the more people there are, the more chances there are to somersault over each other, the more chances there are to block other people, and it just makes for a good experience. I've quite enjoyed this so far. My review of it is going to be positive, and the key to this game is that it either ends when somebody hits the end or when you go through all your cards. So each card can only be played once. That's why it's so important to note down here on your player board, this faction, oh, is this the one I played? Well, it looks like it's very similar. This faction lets you travel 4 times on grass and 4 times on gross grass and only twice on ice. So yeah, good game. Definitely works with 6 players. Might get a little bit longer because everybody has to play their cards, but the turns go by pretty quickly. The only thing that impacts it is you want to see who's covering what space before you make your decision, so that can slow the game down a little bit. But you only have 4 options to choose from, so your decision space is pretty small. A nice little race game coming in at number 8. Number 7 is Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. This is a Stonemaier game. I also have a review of this one if you want a full breakdown of the gameplay and my thoughts, but the essence of this comes down to simultaneous play with the same information. Every round, there's 3 voyages, let's call them, you're going to each be playing 1 card. These cards are crew members, and there are 40 different types of crew members in the deck, but everybody has the same 6. It's shuffled out randomly, you draw it, that's your hand for that voyage. Then you're gonna add 6 more the next time. Then you're gonna add 6 more. And there are ways, you're not gonna play all of them. You can put some back in your hand. There's a way to manipulate these depending upon their abilities, but you're only gonna see less than 50% of the cards on any given playthrough. So there's no guarantee things will chain together. Everybody will choose a card to put face down, and then whatever card is highest usually gets to get a good reward. Every round you're going to be playing for these tiles, and these tiles all have different scoring abilities on them and are worth a different amount. You see this is set up for a 3-player game. You can see these 3 tiles that are out there, and you see the row of cards of people putting things down. Whoever is highest is going to get first dibs at it, but whoever is lowest, generally they have other zany abilities to work with. Sometimes you want to go early, sometimes you want to go later. It all depends on the abilities and how they function. This is great as a 6-player game because of this simultaneous play. Simultaneous play is huge. You're going to see that on a few of these games coming up, but that keeps things tight while not limiting the decision space. I also love the tiebreaker in this. There's this track, this honor track, which anytime you go up or down, you hop over people and it shifts, and then you win ties against them. Because everybody has the same cards, there are going to be ties, and so knowing when your opponents are going to win those ties and being able to kind of outthink them and say, okay, well, they're guaranteed going to play that card, so I'm not going to play that card yet. Or I'm going to do something to alter my honor, make sure I'm in the driver's seat, and then I can play that card for its super ability coming up to get the best booty possible. Pirate booty, that is. It's a really nice, I think, re-implementation of the game. I know some of the comments didn't like the new art direction. It was more of a piratey theme way back when. It was re-implementing this regular Libertalia right here, which showed the different tokens. But for me, I like the colors a lot more. I like the art style a lot more. This doesn't seem as fun. Soto Capo. Nah. I would much prefer like these fun looking characters, and the art's brought in a few people as well into the game. Yeah, works really well as 6. It has a pretty consistent experience across all play counts. There's not going to be anything significantly different, I feel, playing with 6 than playing with 3. There's a 2-player mode that feels a bit different, but generally you'll get the same experience playing at 6. And I think that's also valuable, right? Either getting the same experience and not having to take concessions, or getting a better experience. That's what I'm trying to achieve with this list. Moving along to number 6. Number 6 is Dune. Dune is my number 4 game of all time. It is in my top 10 games. It is exceptional. It is so good. It is a giant space epic game that'll take, 2 hours, maybe 6 hours, Who knows? Depends on how chatty and wheeling and dealing you are. And it's only sitting at number 6 because I recognize this isn't the game to play with everybody. It's very much along the lines of a Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica isn't on this list, but it could be in terms of people wanting to have a full game. With Battlestar, yeah, you want to have a fuller game for the Cylons. Here, you want to have a fuller game because of the way the alliances work. Having an even player count helps with that. And also, it's so much fun with all the abilities working in tandem together, all the intrigue happening with all the chaos and the grit and people fighting and wheeling and dealing and going off into the corner and having whispered conversations. It's really good. Daniel knows what's up. Final battle of a 6-player game with expansion factions. Oh, Ixion and Atreides Alliance won the game. The fact that there can be an alliance to win the game, but it makes the win condition a little bit more difficult is also cool. But I can't put this any higher on the list because I also recognize that if you have 6 players, you're not pulling out Dune. It's not on a whim. It's like, oh, we had too many people show up for game night. Let's play Dune. No. Dune is an event that you schedule, very similar to like Twilight Imperium, any of those large 4X games. I think it would be great to have Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones, you should have 5 or 6 players as well. Also not on this list. This kind of represents that area. And so because of that, it can only be on number 6, but I had to shout it out as like such a beautiful, awesome, epic adventure, and I can't wait to play it again. And we're going to make sure we have 6 players, and we're going to have ourselves a damn grand old time. It's absolutely awesome. The asymmetry here is so fun, and it's cheap too. Like, you don't need a large 4X box filled with minis that cost you $200. You can get this for like $45, really. But the experience that it brings is just so good. That's our number 6. Oh, it's so good. Number 5 is Planet Unknown. This game is ranked 192 overall on BGG. Kind of was taking the airwaves by storm a couple years ago when it launched. It had a new expansion that will be coming out that I ordered. I bought this game along with its expansion because I played this at the Niagara Board Game Convention and really, really enjoyed it. It was my number 1 game of that convention. And it's great. Now, the reason why it's at number 5, because I think arguably I like this game more than a couple of the ones that are ahead. But the reason why this one's at number 5 is because it feels like a solo experience. So, or like a 7 Wonders style experience where you're only really interacting with the players beside you. You're not going to worry about it. Basically, you're going to have your own map. And on your turn, when you're the admiral, you get to turn the Lazy Susan and put it at whatever piece you want directed your way. You get your choice of the litter, you can choose, and then everybody else is resigned to picking one of the 2 pieces that are facing their way. So it goes really quickly, you spin it, everybody has to choose their piece, incorporate it into their board. You're also going to go up on these tech tracks depending upon what piece you chose, whatever colors were on it, you get to move up on those tracks. And these tracks are all asymmetrical, they can be, or you can play the basic side. And they're really fun to manipulate. Like, the asymmetry here is really, really fun. This was one that I liked so much that I went all in on, even though I don't think, I read through the rulebook of the expansion. I legitimately think it will detract from the game, but I still went all in anyway because I got in on a group buy and I could save on shipping. What do you want from me? I'm only human, okay? I'm only human. I think this is a really solid game. Everybody would have a good time playing it at 6, but you won't get that feeling of interaction, right? So if you want a game that has a lot more interaction, where people can affect each other, all of the games ahead of this have that interaction, which is why this had to stop at number 5, then this isn't your jam. But if you have people over and you do have 6 people over, it's just such a solid game, and it will provide that consistent experience, I think, at pretty much all player counts. You get the same experience, and the same experience is a good one. So it's great that it plays 6, hence the 6 sides of the Lazy Susan. That's our number 5. Oh, I didn't even realize that Dune is the honorary number 6. You know, it's the best number. I'm glad it got put there. Planet Unknown is number 5. And Mission Red Planet, more specifically Mission Red Planet, the 2nd edition, just because it got a little bit of a revamp, is our number 4. Mission Red Planet also deals with simultaneous play. Everybody's going to have a hand of different abilities, which nobody wants to show you. Oh, no. Here we go. We'll take the whatever language this is, Spanish. Everybody's going to have a set of cards, and you're going to play one of these cards on your turn face down. Then you're going to count down 9, 8, 7, counting down the rocket ship, and then revealing these cards and getting to put people on respective rockets that are going to a spot. It's an area control game. There are a number of different rockets out there that once they're full, this one required 4 intrepid explorers to move up to Sinus Sabius, then they will go to Sinus Sabius over here, where the person with the most people there will win the points. That's it. You can only win point and collect the gems. You get points for controlling specific regions, but the abilities that you use as you count down to 9, 8, 7, 6, you also have to play a card to pick them all back up so you can track what people have used. And it's a push your luck idea of, okay, I really want to play my 3 ability because then I can get a bunch of people onto this rocket ship to assign a Sabius, but if it fills up with people before I can play that, then I'm out of luck and I have to put them somewhere else. So it's a really nice give and take of trying to anticipate how your opponents will react, and having just 6 people fighting over Mars makes this a bananas game with so many things happening at the same time. But again, it doesn't take that long because of simultaneous play. It gets a bit crowded at 6, but I think it's still worth it having a nice, simpler area control game than something like Dune. This is something that I would take note of. And I haven't played in ages because I keep it for 6 players, and I long realized that that is the kiss of death in games. But perhaps no more. Maybe we'll have a 6-player group. I'm starting to get more and more friends, and it's scary when you have 6 people who want to play a game and you only have a few options. And so now keeping this gives you more options for sure. Number 3 is a game I played with 6 players, introduced 5 new players to this summer. That's Keyflower. This is my, last time I checked, my number 11 game of all time. I just stopped playing this game on Board Game Arena because, well, I was getting too good at it, and that really impacts playing with new people. Like a person who knows this game well will really dominate mostly everybody around the table if they've played it a bunch and nobody else has learned it. It doesn't have much wiggle room for that, especially if you don't want to overly teach a bunch of rules. However, if you've got a bunch of gamers who want to scratch that itch, who want a crunchy resource management and a bidding game, this is a really good one. In Keyflower, you're going to be building your own town. You start with just 1 building, and you're going to be putting out bids. See these tiles in the middle? You're putting out bids on those tiles. And what's kind of cool about this bid, again, using that hexagonal shape, that hexagon shape, is that wherever you're sitting at the table, that's where your bidding section is. So the person who's sitting at the east section of the table, assuming up is north, is now bidding 1 blue meeple on this thing. And everybody can bid in all 3 colors because that matters. This person has now defined this as being only blue meeples only can bid on that. Unless you have another special ability, you can only spend blue meeples. And if I've been keeping track of the number of meeples people have been spending at the table, I know that nobody else has any blue meeples left, and I can get that for only 1 blue meeple, whereas I might have had to pay 3 red meeples because it's a really good tile, and somebody might contest me for it. You're then going to add these to your own board, where if you put meeples on that, they come back to you at the end of the game. If you spend them on an auction, you lose those meeples forever. But if you use them on abilities that you've won, you then get to keep them and cascade them using the abilities potentially over and over again. Because you can put 1 down, and then you can put 2 more down, and then you can put 3 more down to activate that ability up to 3 times. Generating resources, moving them around your town with the idea of scoring a bunch of points. And there are some sheep there for some reason. That must be an expansion. I've never seen that. There are a lot of sheep there. Ooh, that was a nice insert. Oh, maybe that'll be my first 3D printing project. Do something for Keyflower. That could be good. I made a little thing to separate the tiles. There's no insert in this, so I made a little thing to separate the tiles out of foam core, but I don't really like it that much, and there's a lot of space in the box, so although there's always going to be a lot of space in the box, so I don't know. That doesn't matter, but what does matter is that it plays robustly at 6 players, and I feel Keyflower is the same experience at 3 players as it is at 6 players because you can't keep track of the meeples at that point. As a 2-player game, I really like it as a 2-player game because you can keep track of what the opponent has behind their screen. You can really keep track of that. And at any other player count, all that tracking goes out the window. I'm not smart enough for that. and I'm incredibly intelligent. So some of the people who I introduced this to this summer said that they found the theme was boring and bland and they didn't care whatsoever, and some people found it nice and relaxing and pastoral. So I guess it depends on who you are and what you like in your games. I find mechanically this game is really sound and exciting, and I always enjoy playing it, but I will admit I enjoy playing it a little bit less with brand new players than people who know kind of the flow of the game and where it's going to go. But that's our number 3, a really solid choice for 6 players, especially when you want to get that meaty game in. Again, leaning towards this side of the list. I like the meat. I like the feeling of satisfaction. I like longer games, and so this really hits all of those bars. One that doesn't hit all of those bars is our number 2. Actually, a pretty quick one. We have Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Heat has been soaring up the tracks. It's number 43. I only played this because it's in the World Series of Board Gaming upcoming this year and probably will stick around. I mean, that's not an official stance. I do some work for the World Series of Board Gaming. It's a really fun event. You can get tickets at WSBGvegas.com if you want to come to a competition and win $25,000 playing board games. If you're the Heat champion, you win like a $3,000 ring. It's so cool. Anyway, I do some work for them, but I only played it because of that. And since then, I've been really into it, and there's a reason why on Board Game Arena or in person you have additional robot cars when you're playing at less than 6 players, and that's because mechanically this game functions, I think, the best at 6. You see here the 6 players, and the reason why is because if you ever end your turn or midway through your turn behind someone or behind a couple cars, you can then drift by them. You get a little boost to speed as you hop over each other. So very similar to the feeling of Footprints, but with Footprints that doesn't really happen that much. It's more about the blocking of spaces on the board. But with Heat, it does happen very frequently, and it's all about jockeying for that position, trying to get behind your opponents that you can use them to slingshot around a corner. It's really good. And provides that feel of a racing game. Now, I'm not a huge racing game fan, right? Like, I'm kind of mid on this game, but I think it works really well as a 6-player game. And I like mechanically, I like this game a lot more than any other racing game that I've played because it's card driven. You choose what gear you're in, and that is the number of cards that you are forced to play, and some of the cards are 0s, some of the cards are 5s. And so trying to figure out when to shift your gears up and when not is exciting. And you also are going to add these Heat cards into your deck. You'll pull them out and you'll add them into your deck, which they kind of gum up your hand. You can't get rid of them unless you shift down, you take a cooldown phase, you have a card that lets you get rid of heat, right? And you're adding that heat every time you take a corner a little bit faster than you should. And so you want to push your luck in terms of pushing your engine to its maximum without it all blowing up in your face. Really fun game, a solid choice, and I think is best at 6 players. And if you're playing less than 6 players, I don't know, 4 players is fine, but it's pretty easy to incorporate the AI cars, and it's just nice having them there to be able to drift around. I've played just a solo game with 2 people, and then I've played it with the AI cars, and I'm like, yeah, the AI cars are a little bit more fun. So yeah, that's why it does hit number 2. Like, I think it hits a bit better than Keyflower. It goes pretty quick, simultaneous-ish play in terms of how fast your cards are going to be played, but the turns are lightning fast. It keeps everybody engaged, and the hopping over each other I think is an integral mechanic, and I think you get more of that integral mechanic when you're playing with 6 people. And finally, our number 1 game, the number 1 6-player game, before we get into the honorable mentions, this is a game that I think shines at most player counts. It's quite a good game. It's another Stonemaier, and it is Viticulture. This is the Viticulture Essential Edition. You can play with 6 players. You can also play the expansion with 6 players, I believe, as well. And before playing Viticulture, I'd started with the expansion. People say the expansion is essential, and then I say this is the Essential Edition, and it gets very confusing with people's language. And so I was worried about this being a little bit of a downgrade, and I was worried about having 6 players being a worker placement, taking too much time. This is for the Tuscany expansion. This is not the base Viticulture. This is the Tuscany board. This is base Viticulture. That looks more like it. but I quite enjoyed it at 6. I didn't find it too slow, and I think a lot of that has to do with the balance of worker placement spots. A lot of worker placement games, I find the balance to be not always scalable with more people, right? There will always be that one spot that still only has one person can go there. But here it's very simple with viticulture. Often each one of the spots is there's one spot for 2 people, 2 spots for 4 people, and then 3 spots for 6 people, 5 to 6 people, right? And for me, it was the right balance, the absolute right balance of being blocked out of certain spots, making turn order important, making those decisions important as well, and enough people and enough stuff going on the board to make it feel like it really, really still mattered where you went. Thought it was a really nice balance, and the game is good. The game's experience wasn't detracted because I wasn't playing with the expansion. I enjoyed the base game more than I expected to, and so that's what's helping propel this forward. And the reason why it's number 1 is that I probably wouldn't have thought it played well at 6, because a lot of worker placements don't play well at those higher player counts. So, there's a lot of downtime, but I think the actions here are pretty simple. There's enough to read on the cards and to plan ahead, and you always kind of have 2 or 3 spots that you want to go to, that it doesn't really slow things down. We played this at the last day of a convention. We had 6 of us, and we're like, what should we play? What plays at 6? And someone said, Viticulture has 6 on the box. I said, all right, let's give it a go. Oh yeah, Scythe could have been on this list too, but Scythe has an expansion, right? Scythe only plays 5 in the base. Viticulture in the base game without any expansions plays quite nicely at 6. I would much rather choose Viticulture at 6 over Scythe at 6, even though there's a bit more of that area control fighting aspect. I don't know. I just think this worked out really, really well, and I'm sold. This looks close to a 6-player game. 5? There's 5 different colors. Yeah. I found the board was appropriately cramped, and I enjoyed my time and didn't feel like there was too much downtime, which are the 2 main concerns that I have with a lot of other worker placements that play at the higher counts. This one didn't happen. It was pretty nice, and it is a solid system. There's a reason why it's in the top 30. Yeah, 38 on Board Game Geek. I think this is the most highly rated one out of everything mentioned. The only other thing in the top 100 was Heat, and then Planet Unknown was the top 200. Then we go further down. But yeah, Viticulture Essential Edition, I don't own a copy of, and I might pick up just because of how great an option it is for a larger player count, for giving me all of that meatiness that I generally want, and that is generally only afforded to 4 to 5 player games. I think Viticulture is an outlier in that it gives that opportunity to 6 players, and that's very exciting. So that's it. That's the list. I said I would hit you with some honorable mentions, but make sure to drop your own 6-player games down in the comments. Some of the ones, like the lighter games that I would have mentioned or might have made a list before, like Cockroach Poker or Letter Jam or Coup, those are all sort of go-to 6-player games for me, but they're in that lighter category, and I didn't feel like they hit the feeling of this list. Ink and Gold is another one that I don't own, but I need to get because it's so good. Wizard, just the card game Wizard. You can play that with just a regular deck of cards, though, so you don't really need a branded Wizard deck to do. All of those lighter ones, and I'd throw King of Tokyo into that mix as well. These are 6-player games that you could play. Some other ones, let's get some visual aids up for you. You're worth it. King of Tokyo I mentioned as well. I think this one actually plays best at 6. It gives me like a Big Brother feel of who's going to take who out, who's going to spend their stuff on their cards. But I've kind of gone beyond it. Catan, you need an expansion, the 6-player expansion, 5 to 6-player expansion to play it at 6. But I played a lot of 6-player Catan because Catan got me into board gaming. But again, I was trying to leave expansions off the list, and I know a lot of modern board gamers, like you've heard of Catan, you'd poo-poo it if it was on the list, but I'm still giving it an honorable mention, because, sometimes I'll play it. Nuns on the Run, it plays 2 to 8. I thought it only played 2 to 6. Oh, that might be a game changer. Maybe this should have been on the list. How many little novices are there? There's 6 novices. Okay, because I think at a 6-player, you're supposed to play with 2 abysses roaming the halls, and 4 novices, and that's what made it not be on the list. In Nuns on the Run, you have this thing where you're trying to run out, get a secret goal, and get back to your room without the abbesses noticing that you, the little smaller, not yet abbesses, novices that I said already, but they need to make sure that the abbesses don't know that they left their room, or else they'll probably get hit with a stick, because that's normally what happens. Because there's abuse in the church. Whoa, that took a turn. Well, it took a turn for truth. But here, I like being the person running around, and I dislike that the abbesses sometimes have to be on a team. And so I thought at 6 players you had to have 2 abbesses. And I prefer as the abbess, you have like 2 pieces that you can move around, but just moving around 1 piece isn't as fun. It's more fun to be a sneaky little novice than it is to be an abbess, and so having the 2 pieces as the abbess makes it a little bit more fun. The fact that it's 2 to 8, maybe I got that wrong, so it's an honorable mention. Acquire plays well at 6. It's a big old stock market game. I think it plays better at 4. This also is in the World Series of Board Gaming. Renegade did a really nice new edition. That's not that one, but but it kind of looks like that. You're kind of bringing it back. Renegade now has this new Acquire though, and it's quite a nice edition. It's a game from 1963 that surprisingly still holds up. If you get a chance to play it and you haven't played it, you should. Citadels was another one that I was contemplating putting in. It's pretty good 6-player, pretty good 8-player, really. Gives you meaty decisions, and again, it's by the same designer, Bruno Fedudi, as Mission Red Planet, so you have that counting down of the cards, of the rolls that get to be activated. I just opted for Mission Red Planet over Citadels, but Citadels is pretty good. Veiled Fate gets a mention, but you have to play as teams. And so you don't get to play on your own. I actually like Veiled Fate at a lower player count, but the team version is not too bad. You are one of these colors, and you want that color to be the highest around the ring at the end of the game, but you don't want to let people know what color you are, because then they'll just friggin' tank your score. You can manipulate the scores of all the colors, and you want yours to be the highest. And so in a 6 to 8 player game, in order so that there's more things to bluff with, I think 6 is better than 5. I think a 6-player game is better than 5-player of Veiled Fate. You are manipulating. You have 2 people who are potentially manipulating that track. Robo Rally I don't like it, but I know some people do. It's way too long. It's way too long with 6 players. But with 6 players, there's a lot of chaos of robots smashing into each other and you being pushed off course. I think that's a lot of the fun of it. Power Grid was also an honorable mention. Look at this. You're getting 2 top 10 lists. You're welcome. I should have just made 2 videos. I'm away from my normal house and it's hard to film things. Oh, fool. Whatever. You're worth it. Give me a like down below for not turning this into a 2-part video. And subscribe for not turning this into a 2-part video. I value your time. Power Grid, bid, network, and manage your resources. Power Grid chunks off the board. So you see how there's a bunch of different colors on this board here? Hopefully you're not colorblind. You can see brown, green, yellow. There are 6 of them. Coincidentally, it plays up to 6 players. If you're playing with 5 players, you take out one of those systems on the board. Seems like it's designed for 6 players. You're also going to be auctioning off cards. And so with more players, that auction becomes a bit more robust. But I also think, Power Grid is a specific hit. It's a specific taste, and not a lot of people want to do Math the board game, and that's what this is. And so I hesitated recommending it on a 6-player list because I know it's not going to hit as well with a wider group. I was fine with 6 players. You're going to get more of a mix, right? And so if you have 6 people who want to play Power Grid, you're going to go play Power Grid. It's kind of like that Dune-esque feel. But I really, really enjoy Power Grid. It's in my top 20 games. I think it's great. I love the auctioning behind it. I love that there's a market that keeps on getting refilled, but prices increase the more that people buy. And I like that there's different resources that you have to use in your different buildings. It's a big old race, Math the board game. And finally, shout out, goes to Rising Sun. I love Rising Sun. It's my #1 game. You need an expansion to play it at 6. And it does change the feel of the game. I wouldn't recommend playing it at 6 for the first time you play it. I would recommend playing, 3 to 5. Any of them are fine. But 6 changes the feel of the game in that the turns are more scarce, and I find that money is a lot more scarce as well. Because there's more people on the board, you're going to be getting money through a harvest action, and there's less people who are going to be able to capitalize on that. The money feels a lot more scarce. And if you want to win 6-player Rising Sun, well, focus on having the most money because the battles are going to be tight and a lot of people are going to be in them, and they're going to be decided by those war advantages and not who bought the biggest monster. Oh, so there you go. Those are the honorable mentions. Those are the honorable mentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 honorable mentions. There we go. What did I miss? Oh, I missed one. I missed one. This is the only good thing about the second edition versus the first edition. The first edition of Sheriff of Nottingham only played up to 5, right? And then you got an expansion that incorporated it. And then the second edition, when CMON stole the license from Arcane Wonders, the second edition incorporates that, and that's literally the only good thing that they've done. Otherwise, like, look how it... Oh, God! This makes me so mad. This really makes me so mad. It's the ugliest art design I've ever seen in a reprint. It takes everything that was charming and good about the game, and it makes it just, awful. Really, I don't know if this can be an honorable mention. I don't know if it can be. I just love my original. Like, so you have the warm colors, you have much more vibrant colors, you have much funnier art, and then the art design, like, you have a chicken, you have a beautiful green, vibrant green with the chicken, and then when you go to friggin' Sheriff of Nottingham 2.0, and you look at this stuff, like, are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me right now? Nobody wants that. Ooh, you get an apple. Wow, congratulations. One single apple on a card. Like, how soulless is this game? It's a really good game, but I honestly, like, I've never been more offended by an art change than I have with this game. Literally, like, never. That's not hyperbole. This, it breaks my heart for what this game once was, and it's like to the point where I don't know if I can recommend it at 6. And the expansion adds in a weird twist. It's better at 5, which is why I didn't make it, but I could play 6. I think I just wanted to talk about how bad they are. I take it back. We had 9 honorable mentions. Yeah, let's go back to Rising Sun. 9 extra honorable mentions, plus the extra little party games. That's 26 games. Right? 24 games. I know math. I can count at least to 6. That's 24 games that you can play with 6 people, and mostly all of them are good. So the next time you want to exclude me from your game nights, Marjorie, well, may I direct you to this video, okay? Because I can be allowed to play, and I'll bring them. Scythe! I have the expansion for Scythe. We'll do that at 6 players. There we go, 25. How many more do you need, Marjorie? How many more do you need? So hopefully this improves the invitations that I get. And hopefully this gives you some suggestions that there are, 6 players isn't as prohibitive as it may seem. But it's still a little prohibitive, but not too bad. Social deduction. There you go. And throw in an extra 5 there for social deduction. Anyway, my name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase. But Renee tripped and dropped some electronics, and I gotta go. I gotta go.
Don't make me look like that.
I gotta go. It's like Marjorie all over again.